Today we're discussing specific allegations of fraud in the for-profit college sector. We'll talk about when lies and exaggerations constitute fraud against students. And we'll be discussing the specific lawsuit against Berkeley College in New York City. Hello and welcome to Talks on Law. I'm Joel Cohen. Today we're joined remotely by Commissioner Vilda Vera Mayuga, who runs New York City's Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. Commissioner, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Maybe we can jump right into this particular case. This lawsuit was brought by your department?
That is correct. We're very proud of the work and of the results, and we are excited to be able to provide restitution to victims of the fraud and deceit that came from Berkeley College.
Well, we'll talk about some of what you were able to get for victims shortly, but maybe we could talk about what the allegations were, and forgive me, in this conversation, should I call them allegations? It was a settlement without admitting guilt, right?
That is correct. Berkeley didn't admit any guilt in the settlement. We certainly stand by our allegations. We believe there was enough there to prove them if we had decided to move forward. But I think we always recognize that a settlement is always the fastest way to reach a conclusion and provide the relief that these victims would need.
And we'll talk about how the relief reaches into the millions of dollars. Maybe a good place to start would be, how did you discover that there might be something going wrong here?
We received a number of complaints initially that prompted us to start looking into this particular institution. As we learned more about their practices, we also sent some undercover investigators to pretend being students that are interested in enrolling in courses at Berkeley College and recording basically and obtaining the evidence that way that confirmed what we had heard from other students as well.
That is disheartening, and in a way, you're hitting people when they're particularly vulnerable at the beginning of their career.
Absolutely right. I mean, we know that a lot of us have to go into school and all that to have our student loans, and that is a big piece to deal with in our finances, and that is an area that we're trying to tackle through this case as well. A lot of these individuals are also first-time generation to obtain an advanced degree or go to college, and unfortunately they fell victims of this bait and switch.
Commissioner, could I ask about a couple of the allegations? What was the fraud or the deception that took place? In the lawsuit, you mentioned lying about other colleges. What did you see there?
So we uncovered that part of their scheme was to lie about how long it would take, for example, to finish a degree in a different institution, or how much you could actually obtain, or how much it will cost you to go to another institution. We know there's competition, there's many places that you can go to, but certainly you should be able to make the decision with true information, because perhaps something that's good for you is not good for me, but that doesn't mean that it's that you're going to lie about what it would mean to go to a different institution.
Commissioner, another area was involving encouraging or fooling students into taking on student loans, misleading them about the loans, or what was going on there?
So we had instances basically where you were led to take out a loan when perhaps you didn't need a loan because you qualify for certain financial aid like grants, other scholarships that do not need to be repaid. Or you were led to take a loan without realizing you were taking a loan because you signed a document that you were rushed to sign without being able to read all the details and understand what was in that document.
There were some comments about payment plans or tricking the students into taking loans directly from the college?
That's right, because obviously there's certain different types of loans that you would take, but making it in a very intentional way to make sure that they're the creditor, right? They're going to be the ones who are collecting the money. It's a for-profit college. You're trying to make a profit. So these seem to be part of their scheme to have, receive revenue for the school in a way that will maximize those numbers for the school and not really putting first the student, and which was the best way for the student to obtain the education that they were coming to an educational institution to seek, that when they left, it wouldn't be so large.
Why don't we actually transition into the settlement that was recently reached. First off, there's a $20 million number. What is that?
So the $20 million is basically debt relief to former students. So any student, any Berkeley College student that had a debt before, had an institutional loan before January 1st of 2019 would be covered, or should be covered. I want to make sure that people reach out to us and confirm for any details that we may not be talking about today. And so basically what that means is that Berkeley cannot reach out to these students to try to collect on any of that debt. And they should not be receiving letters, phone calls from Berkeley or any debt collector that is perhaps employed or being used by Berkeley to do that. We need to know if that's happening so that we can take action and make sure that it stops. But that's what the $20 million number means.
Commissioner, there was also some money set aside for actual damages or restitution for some of the students.
There are $350,000 that are used for restitution. So that piece does go to a fund that we manage to, as we contact the 75 students, up to 75 students who file complaints with us, we can then assess what monies are owed to them so that we can send them restitution money. So the $20 million debt, basically don't have to pay it anymore, but there's $350,000 for certain students, up to 75 of them, that would get money back. And those we are already reaching out to because we do have the information. These are real complainants.
There was some significant money set aside for restitution. There was $20 million set aside to cancel debt, or $20 million in debt that's been retired. What about changing the policies or changing some of these practices that led to this problem?
Absolutely, Joel. We want to make sure that we're not just addressing what may have happened in the past, but we want to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So part of that settlement includes changing policies from Berkeley that they have to implement. And those include, admissions interviews and financial aid counseling that takes place when they are onboarding and welcoming students or currently enrolled students as they continue in the relationship with Berkeley College. Letting the students know about transfer credits, what credits they can transfer from other institutions or what credits they can transfer from Berkeley to other institutions if a student currently enrolled with them wants to go somewhere else for whatever reason. Also communicating with the students about any debt that is actually owed, and so that it's clear and it's not taking anybody by surprise because they didn't understand documents that were put in front of them to sign, and making sure certainly that any statutes of limitations related to debt collection are observed. That's critical to us because obviously as we address the $20 million debt, we also want to make sure that it doesn't happen moving forward if there's anything that, time periods that they should observe. And as part of that as well, we're going to be auditing a random sample of admissions interviews to make sure that the individuals from Berkeley College that engage in having these conversations with potential students or even current students are abiding by these policies.
And I'm sure you'll be on the lookout for other complaints from existing students.
Yeah, no, anybody who has questions or had an issue, we want to know about it. We want to hear about it. We want to use it as an opportunity to inform them, see if they, fall under this group of people that there may be some relief for them. And if not, also find out if it's something, can we refer them to one of our financial empowerment centers, right? I mean, if they had debt, that's not part of this agreement, but they could benefit of sitting down with a financial counselor that we can provide for free in one of our centers. We want to do that too. There's many ways, and for us, if this is the way that we're connecting with a New Yorker, a consumer, we want to know about them, and we want to see how we can best serve them and help them get through at least this part of their lives.
College loans, university loans, are one of the biggest obligations that Americans will take on in their lives for many of us.
It is certainly a big investment that we make, and we put a lot of importance on education because we know it can really lift people, right? It can really provide an entry to a better paying job that is going to help you provide better for your family. And so we want to make sure that people, in terms of a takeaway, pay attention. Don't feel pressured. Ask questions. Do the research. Ask others. Come to our financial empowerment centers. Even if you already have student loans, we can help you figure out what may be the best way for you to move it forward so that, based on your income, you actually have a budget that may make sense, that would make sense and will help you get through it without losing sleep.
Vilda Vera Mayuga is New York City Commissioner for the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. Commissioner, thanks for the time today.
Thank you, Joe.